Welcome back to Average Home Theater. I'm Nelson, and as promised, I am joined by the man himself, Dominic. How you doing, Dominic?
I'm doing great, sir.
And so,
Talking to you from Texas.
yeah, Katy, Texas again. Don't mess with Texas. So we are going to, since we our last three videos have been preparing for Kingdom. Well, last night we were both able to go watch it. And we haven't spoken a word to each other about this, so this is all going to be fresh hotness.
Hmm.
And we are going to give our thoughts. First, we're going to do a little spoiler-free discussion, just kind of give our quick thoughts on it. Then we'll move over to spoilers. So if you haven't watched it yet, you can come back and watch the our spoiler section. But anyway, so why don't you go first, Dominic? Why don't you give me your kind of initial impressions and then give us a little score of what you think the movie was, like out of 10.
Okay, makes sense. Okay. So yeah, I was excited going into it. I went to a later showing. Theater wasn't too busy, so I was really able to soak it in. Um, Overall, I liked it. I liked it.
Mhm.
I thought it was a worthy entry in the series, and that's what this is. Some of my preconceived ideas, not all of them lined up, but this definitely came across to me that this is not the ending. This is another chapter in a saga that's going to be longer than we thought. Um, but the CGI, incredible, like even better. Like there's some scenes with when some of the apes get like I mean this isn't a spoiler, get in the water. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this looks real. Like
Mhm.
some of those, I mean, even better. As far as the cast, I mean, it's no surprise, Caesar is not in this one. So we have to meet a whole new cast. And I think they did a great job with introducing Noah, our new
Mhm.
character, and, his family and what he goes through about in his life and kind of go on a journey with him. In some ways, it kind of felt like a book again, like I said before. Like we go on a journey with him and we meet a cast of characters along the way. Um, the villain was great and it was a fun ride. It went some directions I didn't think it was going to go. So I liked it.
Okay, so what do you think your score is?
I'd say, as a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it a solid. I'm going 8. Eight
Okay.
feels right. 8 feels right.
Well, for me, and I watched it with producer Nick, and we both had almost the exact same feeling, I think, where my expectations were really high for
Mm-hmm.
one, because I loved the trilogy. And two, the trailers were great. Now, I only watched the first teaser trailer and then the first theatrical trailer. I didn't watch any of the others. I didn't watch any of the TV spots or the trailer that came out like 2 weeks prior
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't want any type of spoiler. I wanted to like go in guessing and be surprised. And I was surprised. There were things that I had no idea was going to happen or anything like that. So that was it. Was this movie definitely kept me kind of guessing on what was going on with certain elements,
Mm-hmm.
which you wouldn't think a Planet of the Apes movie you would have that many questions, but there were a lot of things that I was like, okay, what's going on here? So that was really neat. Having
Mm-hmm.
going into a movie and not really knowing what was going on. The CGI was excellent. There were a couple little spots where it's like, okay, well, it didn't look great, but overall, it looked really, really good. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the characters were good. The acting was great. I thought everybody played their part very well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Proxima Caesar was awesome. I knew he would be, but he was great. Um, Fraka or whatever his name is. No, Rafka. Fraka. Rafka was awesome.
He was
Um,
like the orangutan
he was the
caretaker.
orangutan that's in the
Yeah.
trailer. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
he was a great character. So I really enjoyed it. There were things that, like I said, we'll get into it when we get to spoilers, that kind of disappointed me or whatnot. So I left a little. underwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
I really thought I was gonna be like, woo, yeah, but I really wasn't. So for me, last night when I was talking to Nick about it, I was thinking around 6.5, because if 5 is average, 6 is above average, 7 is like
Yeah.
good. And then once you start getting to 8, it's really good. But I really think a 7 is more appropriate than a 6.5. I think a 6.5 is cutting it short because
Mm-hmm.
it was a good movie. They really tried to make something great. It wasn't lazy. It wasn't there wasn't all kind of DEI checkbox type, moments or anything like that.
Right.
Which is hard to have with apes. But it just, I don't know, they really tried to make something good, and
Mm-hmm.
I am happy about that. It wasn't lazy. They didn't just try to cash in on a Planet of the Apes name. Um, but it did fall a little short for me as far like I kept waiting for it to just be like, yeah, and it didn't quite get over the hump for me. So
Right.
I'm gonna go with a 7 on this one. It could have been a lot better, but the kicker is I don't know what would have made it better, and we'll get into that in spoilers. So
Uh, no, as you were talking, I can totally see what you're saying. And I know this is fighting words for you, but I like this villain slightly better than Koba.
okay, where's my knife? Um, you're trying to get cut over here.
No, it's just that villain. I was like, dude, I was like,
Oh,
all right. I mean,
no,
that
he
villain
was
was
a great
amazing.
villain. He really
Yes.
was. But we'll get
And
in we'll get
and
into that in the spoilers.
and you know what? Koba was different because you kind of felt for him. He kind of went back and forth. This dude is
Mhm.
just a straight up villain.
Oh,
And like,
he's yeah.
yeah, and that's why I was saying you said like there was some things underwhelming, some things you thought it would go, kind of didn't. You kind of mentioned that a little bit.
Hmm.
That's I felt that too. So that's what I meant by um this is another chapter because some things I'm still waiting for have not happened yet. And
Yeah.
I know we're probably thinking of some of the same things. But no, so positive review. Mine's slightly more positive than yours, but
Yep.
both of us thought it
But
was above average.
if you like the original trilogy, you will like this. So I do
Mm-hmm.
suggest going watch it. I do recommend it. It's fun. You're not gonna be. It's not a waste of money or anything like that.
No, it's
It's
well done.
just, and it could just be maybe my expectations were a little too high. But
And
overall, I think it's definitely worth a watch, and it's a lot of fun.
and it feels like a continuation of what we had before.
Yes.
Um, but there's some moments it is a slow burn and times, and
Yeah,
it's
it's a long
weird.
movie. It's like what, 2 hours and 20 minutes or something? I have to
Yeah,
look it
it's a
up.
good bit.
It's
It's interesting too, though, because it doesn't feel like the fourth film in a franchise. They're still taking their time,
mhm.
with the storytelling, which is cool and different because nowadays, by the time they get to the third or fourth movie, they're throwing everything in there.
It's two
And
hours and 25 minutes. I mean, it's a long movie. It's
yeah,
not
it's a
short at
slow burn
all.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. All
Um,
right. Well,
yep.
so like we said, we both suggested, we both recommended. You'll have fun. Um, there's a lot of great moments in it. Special effects are great. The acting is great. So if you like the original trilogy, I say if you like the Caesar trilogy, you will definitely like this. And with that, I think we're going to move on to spoilers. So here's your warning. Spoilers, spoilers. All right.
Warning.
So what what moments you were like, yes, and then after that, I want you to tell me what disappointed you or didn't quite meet expectations that you had.
Gotcha. Um, I definitely loved our new lead, Noah. He
Mhm.
felt kind of like a Caesar type of character where he's got a sense of adventure. He has a sense of right and wrong. Um, he's appealing. I like using that character as kind of our new Caesar type
Mhm.
character. I liked that. Um, I like how I didn't know where we were going because where I'm like, oh, this is the kingdom. Like where we starting with this, this new kingdom that he's living in. This is not the kingdom it's referring to in the title. This is just another subset of apes. The apes have branched off and made their own small,
Mhm.
tight knit communities. So I didn't think it would do. I thought it'd kind of just be one big one, but it's not. It's like different neighborhoods of, apes. So that was interesting. And, you know, when they start to go forward in the story, I thought the humans would be more integrated. It's really, really ape heavy. Like you get sprinkles of the humans here and there,
Mm-hmm.
and you really don't get more of them till later on. So I thought that was interesting, because we had predictions that, oh, it was going to be the astronaut and all that, and they don't do any of that.
Right.
So that was interesting. I love the orangutan caretaker, that our character runs into, and I freaking knew it. Like in our second video, I was like, that window symbol is kind of like their cross, and the
Mm-hmm.
dude is wearing it like a cross. Like I thought that was really cool. Like that symbol is still apparent, and it's kind of like the cross in regards to Caesar. And I had mentioned that Caesar's kind of like a Moses character, and they refer to him as the lawgiver. So like that's really how they view him. But I liked all that mythology, like how they talk about the laws he passed down and all that. Um, then bam, when we get to the freaking king, that was interesting, man. Like he's very bold,
He didn't have enough screen time. Two and a
yeah,
half hour movie, and he really only
yeah,
has 15, 20 minutes on screen. So
yeah.
that was, in my opinion, that's one of my biggest complaints is I wanted more Proximus. He was just so awesome, such a good bad guy, and you just
He
didn't get a whole lot of him, you know?
he was amazing. But what I really do like about this is that, dude, it's kind of like scripture. Like people read the Bible and then people have different opinions on what it means. This dude, this King Proximus, is twisting Caesar's scriptures
Hmm.
and going way in left field with it
Well, he's perverting
versus
it. He's
yeah,
manipulating, using it to his advantage. He's kind of done what, because Caesar in ancient times was a title. It wasn't
mm-hmm.
necessarily a name, like Julius Caesar and whatnot.
Right, right,
So he has kind of taken it that way as well.
uh-huh,
He's using Caesar as a title now, as opposed to his, the original Caesar that was his name. And
right.
he is perverting all of that history so he could rule, so he can be a dictator, where he's the man type thing.
Yeah, and I found that interesting because obviously there's parallels to that in real life. Like, for example, the Crusades, like all these people using God's name for what they're doing, and they weren't all doing what they were supposed to be doing,
Correct,
right?
correct.
So that's kind of what he's doing. Like he's doing that, and I thought it was interesting that it's like a abandoned battleship. Like,
Some kind of
God,
ship, yeah.
yeah, that was cool. I liked all that. But I would say that's pretty much my positives. I like the orangutan. I like Noah. I like the mythology building, all the stuff with the law and how it would be different sects and not all agreeing. And some of them are more extreme than others. The king was awesome. Um, but it kind of a negative, like it took us 2 hours to get there,
Hmm.
And then by the time I'm like, oh, all the, and then bam, it ends.
Hmm.
So that I was like, man, it made me want to see the next one because still questions are not answered. Um, and it like built, and then it shut off. I kind of wish we got a little more there.
Yeah. It kind
Um,
of acted more of a middle movie instead of the
yeah.
beginning of a new trilogy. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I don't know, it's almost like an Empire Strikes Back where it's the
Mm-hmm.
middle of the story, and so there's a lot more questions, than
Yeah.
answers.
Because
So
we
anyway,
thought like,
continue with I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, you're good. Because we kind of thought, oh, we're getting to the Charlton Heston like original movie. We're still like 3 movies away from that at
Right.
this rate, So
Well,
like,
I
this is
don't think they're
definitely.
going to do that. I think that's obvious. They're not going to do that and that's one of my negatives is
Mm-hmm.
the decision to go with the Fallout shelter humans. I I did not like that. The big reveal of the whole thing she was after was that hard drive so they can
So she could get the satellites.
reestablish communications.
Mm-hmm.
It did not blow me away at all. I was just like, oh, like I don't know. And it could just be because I wanted it. I thought it was going to be she was like the new Charlton Heston type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's obvious that they are not going to do that. It's completely different, which is fine. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong with a remake being different. Actually, that's a lot of times that's better, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it might just take a little bit of marinating for me to get used to that and watch the movie again. And now that I have those expectations out of the way,
Right.
rewatch it, and I might appreciate what they did more. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
No, that makes sense because I kind of I'll put it to you like this. I liked the movie. Okay. But if this was the last Apes movie, I'd be disappointed.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, they're playing the long game here. There's going to be at least two more of these, at least.
Hmm.
And they still could do the astronaut and all that. It's just they haven't done it yet. They still could do that later, you know,
Yeah, I guess, but
because they
I don't
did
know.
set that up if they wanted to in the first movie, like we said before. And they still could get there. A curveball for me, though, is like I thought all the humans are going to be low level. And they do show a cool scene where they're hunting the humans that was very reminiscent of the
Hmm.
originals. That was cool. But now we have humans that are still talking. That threw me off a little bit.
Right.
I was
So
like,
they stayed
okay,
in these
yeah.
fallout shelters, for lack of a better term, and
Mm-hmm.
so they weren't exposed to the virus.
Right.
So they never fell victim to what the other humans did. So they have
Mm-hmm.
just continued on underground. I
Right.
don't know what their answer is, how they had the resources to do that for 300 years, but
Yeah.
nevertheless, this is also a movie about talking apes. So, we can move past certain things. But
Well, that, yeah.
so I just don't know how I feel about it. And I guess it's because I just watched Fallout and I just
Uh,
saw that, and to basically see it again, it's like,
I
man, we
see.
just we just saw this. We just saw humans living out for a few hundred years in a fallout shelter, you know?
I
I
haven't
don't know.
jumped into Fallout yet, so I didn't have that going in, but
Yeah.
I could see what you're saying. Um, but again, that's why I'm like, well, this is a middle this is a middle chapter,
Hmm.
you know. And if you try not to think too much about the direction you want it to go later, or if you just think about what the movie we got, like it's pretty solid.
Yeah.
Um, and oh, that's what I was gonna say. The people that were in the Fallout shelter, it kind of reminds me a little bit of like Beneath the Planet of the Apes, how there were humans underneath the
Yeah.
ground that didn't get affected like that. Kind of a little bit of that, although they didn't go like this and show their disgusting face. But we just got a little bit with that. Maybe they were testing that. And then the next movie they can kind of back off or dive deeper into that. Because what you're talking about is we only got like a couple of minutes of us realizing that, oh, the whole time she was there to get that chip or device to put it in the satellite,
Hmm.
we didn't know that till the end. Um, but them blowing up the dam for the water to come in, and the king being obsessed with trying to get in there.
Well, it's
And when
because he knew there was something in there. He didn't know what it
Mhm.
was, but he knew there was something in there because the humans had fortified it so well that there had to be something in there that would make him
Right.
all powerful, something that he could use. And what was it? There
Uh-huh.
were tanks and
Yeah.
weapons. And so, God forbid, I mean, if he would have gotten a hold of that, he would have tried to just rule everything.
Well, you
So
saw
that
how
was his
excited he got
motivation.
over the
That was
pistol.
great. He was like, "You can go."
Yeah.
So are there more of those in there?
Yeah, that was hilarious. Like he's like, it's
He's like,
fine.
"You're fine. Go. I don't need you. If I can have one of them boomsticks, I'm good."
Yeah, that was amazing. Like he was almost like at that was hilarious.
So my
Um,
positives were, of course, the
mhm.
acting, the directing, the special effects, of course, all of that. But what I was really excited at first, I was hooked when I realized I was like you, I didn't know it was going to be multiple clans and all of that
Mhm.
stuff. I thought it was the way the first trailer makes it look. There's a kingdom, Proximus rules everything, and Noah just comes to the realization that what they're doing is wrong. So he kind of
Right.
starts a rebellion against Proximus. That's what I thought the movie was going to be.
Mhm.
Instead, it's separate, um, what do you call them? Communities,
Right.
societies. and um, this one is peaceful. This one is, run by Proximus Caesar, who's more dictator, for lack of a better term.
Hmm.
I thought it was really awesome when you see them with their masks and stuff like that. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
dude, this is going to go places that I never thought it was going to go. So I was really hooked at the beginning. The Eagles, that was a nice touch, something
Hmm.
completely different that we had never seen before. That they raised eagles, and it was
Yeah.
like a rite of passage to climb, get an egg, raise the eagle as yours. I mean, all of that stuff was great.
That was
Um,
great, especially the payoff we get with that
yeah,
later,
you
which
end
is how
up
they
getting a
take him out.
payoff, right?
Yeah.
And I kept waiting for it, and I didn't. It's like they do a good job of getting you to kind of forget about the eagles
Hmm.
until you see them flying around at the end. It's like, oh, he's gonna have to use the eagles
That was
to
cool.
defeat Proximus.
Yeah.
Nick was a little bothered with that. He felt that all of those chimps could have easily defeated Proximus. But like I told him, look at Hitler.
Hmm.
Hitler could have been killed how many times?
Right.
But just nobody ever did it. Like, why didn't somebody just kill him? It's
Yeah.
kind of, fear, is very powerful. And
Hmm.
he was able to instill fear. And even down to the very end, they were still scared of him. They were still afraid.
Yeah.
So they couldn't bring themselves to attack him until what's his name? Noah gets up, starts singing or chanting or whatever, and they all
Yeah.
start chanting with him and get the eagles to attack, which was really neat. It was a good thing.
And again, a lot of those apes were raised with him. So Noah came at it from an outsider point of view.
Yeah,
So he did something different, and kind of shook them out of apathy, So, and less casualties this way too.
yeah,
And they surprised them. So yeah, I like
man.
that.
That gorilla, the main gorilla, that was like the muscle. He was awesome.
Yeah,
He
he
was
was
great.
scary, man. And
Yeah.
he looked real, and I was like, gosh, that dude is just out for blood.
Hmm.
He was straight up, man. He was crazy.
I enjoyed
Uh,
him. I wish we'd have
mm-hmm.
been able to see the first battle where the um, Noah's father sent that chimp to go and scare off the echoes, which is what they call the
Oh,
humans.
yes.
But then
Yeah.
he got jumped by three apes, and he
Right.
killed all three of them, and he didn't die until after they did. I mean, he must have been a
Yeah.
gangster to take, you know what I'm saying? Because he took out all three
Uh-huh.
of them by himself. So I wish we'd have been able to see that fight. That'd have been neat.
That'd be like Paz Vizsla in Mando when
Oh
he
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So overall, though, it was very good. I was just a little bothered. I was bothered a little by the human
Hmm.
fallout shelter thing. Um, it just, I don't know, it just didn't really resonate well with me. But like I said, I want
Hmm.
to watch the movie again. And now that I can accept the direction that they're going, maybe I'll appreciate it just a little bit more, you know.
Yeah.
But I can tell by the surround sound. We were just in a regular movie theater. The
Hmm.
surround sound and stuff, it's going to be amazing when it's out on physical media.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be awesome. So I can't wait for that.
No, yeah, and I mean, there's already. I already want to when it comes out on 4K. I already want to go back and watch all the Proximus scenes
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah.
I'm already having thoughts like that. So I like it, and I mean, and like for example, I did really like War, but there's not a whole lot of scenes I'm thinking of that from that movie that I want to rewatch. But this one, I'm like, man, I want to watch this again. I want to watch this part again.
Yeah, I could see
Um,
that. Yeah.
yeah, and I think you'll like you were saying, you'll appreciate this more in 7 years when we have two or three more of these after it, because they're taking their time with this trilogy. You can't say they're rushing
Yeah.
it.
But no
Um,
matter what makes
yeah,
the other trilogy so good is Caesar. And I
totally.
don't think that Noah, while he's a good character, he's nowhere
Hmm.
near what Caesar was, as far
Yeah,
as just an interesting character. And he's okay. And this was, and I told that to Nick, this is very much a coming of age story for him.
Totally. He's way
He,
more juvenile too.
he's a completely different ape at the end compared to the beginning of the movie. He grew up a lot. So in the next
Yeah.
movie, it's going to be, at least a couple of years or whatever later.
Hmm.
And he's going to be, I think he's going to kind of take his father's place in
Yeah.
the hierarchy. I mean, he's not going to be an elder, but he's definitely going to be one of the more respected. I mean, he defeated
Hmm.
Proximus, so
Totally.
he's definitely going to be higher on the food chain amongst their tribe in the
Right.
next movie. So maybe he'll get a little bit more like Caesar going forward.
I think he will, and he has um that innate like goodness in him that Caesar had.
Hmm.
Um, and like you said, he's not going to be. Caesar was the top of the food chain. He was at the top. This guy Noah's going to be at the table.
Hmm.
He's going to be well respected. He's going to have the allegiance of a lot of the other apes, and I think we're definitely going to see him grow as this trilogy moves forward. Um, and I hope we don't have to wait 7 years for the next one.
Nah, 2 years. 2 years we'll have
Yeah,
another one.
yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't want it. I don't want one to come out every year, but I think like a 2 to 3 years is great.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think it'll be they're definitely going to do another one, and it'll be within 2 years. There's no doubt.
yeah. And I
So,
really holding out hope. I think we will get the astronaut coming. Maybe not the next one, but the one after that. I think we'll get that at some point.
and we'll see because I think they're gonna ignore that, and
Yeah.
I think they're gonna do more of the humans trying to make their comeback
Yeah.
and coexist with the apes. I think that's kind of what they talked about at the end, and that's I really think they're gonna go more that direction than
Okay.
an outsider coming in because I mean, they to me they've already ignored it. They've already done it. They've already made their decision.
What if they have like some kind of a final stand, like these military, you spend time on both sides, and it builds, 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 and there's finally this all out war, and the astronaut lands in the middle of the war.
That could be,
That would
maybe
be
so,
intense.
maybe
That
so,
that
or
could be cool. Yeah.
maybe the war ends and humans lose, and a couple of 100 years later the astronaut comes. I don't know, but
It could go that way too.
my
Yeah.
official prediction is they're going to ignore the astronaut. That's gone.
Okay. Well, we'll
They're just
see.
going to
We'll
pretend
see.
like okay, those astronauts got lost, but it has nothing to do with what's going on. So that's my prediction. We'll see.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, there's definitely going to be more, which I'm excited about,
Yeah.
so.
All right, well, I guess we'll wrap this up. We've gone on long enough. So, anyway, if you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, tell your friends, and let us know what you thought about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes in the comments below, and let us know if we're both a bunch of idiots and you know better. All right, adios.